another. And we've done it live with, you know, kids doing a debate at one table, scientists, one table, wildlife biologists, one table, and they have to read the stuff and be ready like 20 minutes to debate. And so that we do that, and then we also have a Colorado River debate where they have to take a stakeholder opinion, and we put statements up about who's we think that it's just different. It's a philosophical chairs. I don't know if you guys have done philosophical chairs, but they come in and I give them their stakeholder position. So golf course owner, a hotel manager in Las Vegas, all the different people that are involved in Colorado River. It's part of the AP environmental science test is that Colorado River. They've got to know about the Colorado River and how. So anyway, so we do that, and they are very nervous about what stakeholder they're going to get. They all want golf course owner because they're kind of known as the one, you know, I don't want to say the enemy because that's not right because I'm at a golf course right now, but they use a lot of water, especially in Las Vegas, that kind of thing. Anyway, so I do 2 debates like that. Which works out that all the kids like it. But it's hard for them to take on a different position. Yeah. They don't want to do that.
Yeah. At this point, you can almost modify the wolf introduction to wolf management
because it's almost, don't we have close to 150 wolves now in Washington State, something like that?
Yeah.
So I do want to remind people there's a Google Drive that if you have stuff to upload that you want to share with others, I have a link to a Google Drive that we can upload stuff to. I believe it's on the website, and you can upload anything to it that has to do with natural resources. Also, finally got the internet to work in here. Sorry, those that had to wait 15 minutes to get on there, but I had to disconnect and reconnect and it finally worked. So
just like at home.
Yeah. I know that people had issues in the district meetings with it too.
So when you say, just as a reminder, the Google Drive is on the website for the conference? Or website?
Yeah, here, let me, the conference website, yeah.
So how will it continue?
It says,
afterwards?
Say that again?
How will it be hosted afterwards?
We can continue to get access.
Okay.
Yeah. It says we will post on the website for you.
So it has to be
the Google Drive. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, if people want to send me their stuff, I can give you my email and then I'll just send it to Tracy. And
I saw it on the website. So if you go to the curriculum corner, and then you go to the one that we're at right now, there's a link for the Google Drive folder for this curriculum corner where you have right now.
I'm just sort of confirming that. I guess my concern is that like once the conference is done, I
think we'd have continued access, like just gonna be there.
Yeah. Because the AP Environmental Science group has a Facebook group and they've got a Google Drive, and it's just one of the first announcements on the page. You can always go there to tap back into it. Forgot how to get to it. So
it should, I would think if you got onto it once, it would be
just gotta save the
share.
anyone else have something they'd like to share that they do? Thank you. I just figured they don't want to look at my ugly mug.
So you do like invasive or native species. Mind you, I teach middle school, but mine were really into art. So I had them pick one invasive and one native species for our area, for the watershed we were going to. And then I had them personify it as a superhero and a villain. And it was really cool to see. And they had to have their superpowers, you know, and why they would defeat the other one. And they got super into it. It was like a contest for them.
So the invasive is the villain, right?
Yeah. And they, oh my gosh, it was so creative.
Yeah. It's like the campaign posters for wildlife. We've done that, political campaign posters for different types of
Oh, yeah.
wildlife.
Well, I worked with our English teacher. We were doing a co-teaching and she did wanted posters
Yeah.
for invasive species.
So we did wanted posters
Yeah.
for invasive species this last year.
But I loved, she did the sticker evaluation. So she had the kids go through and put a sticker on their favorite one. So they voted for each other. And then they also left a feedback. She had sheets of paper underneath them, but they were all stapled to the wall. So all the other kids would comment that were in different grades. It was pretty neat.
Like a gallery walk.
Yeah, except it was out for the whole school to see. Yeah.
The wanted poster, the other one is the lost. For the extinct or endangered animals.
Yeah.
So.
We had kids for the endangered species. We had kids put together we said you had to use one of the Michelle. Is it Michelle McLaughlin? No, Sarah McLaughlin songs.
Oh, no.
And the background, you had to use one of those.
Oh,
And then we have a rubric for it of what you had to cover in the video. So we had the kids all make videos and Sarah McLaughlin song had to be in the background. And they said, can we use a different song? And I said, well, you won't get full points if you use a different song. So.
Yep, that would be awesome to upload that rubric into the
Okay.
Google Drive. See, a lot of different like scenario and research type things have been shared. Do anyone have any like cool labs or anything that they like to do outside or hands-on type things they want to share?
I did a compass course outside of just like ball sticks. I think it's from you, actually. Compass course that Google Drive you shared for forestry.
I don't teach natural resources, I teach forestry, and just some of the forestry materials would be good stuff. So yeah, compass and pacing gets them outdoors, they love it.
I had my biology class do, we had kind of a little alleyway, I guess you could say, next to the greenhouse. And so they created a habitat and they got to choose what we would put in it. So we brought in like soil and different plants and and stuff, and then they wanted fish too. So we bought a little fish pond to put in there. And then they watched the succession change over because I had it there for the whole semester. So we did that toward the beginning of the semester. And then my environmental science class, that's what we used to do the water quality testing, was the fish tank. Well, not tank, but the fish pond. And so then we kind of incorporated it like, is this actually good habitat for the fish that we have in there? And so they had to research what type of stuff that they needed for the fish. So the quality of the water in regards to the pH, in regards to the oxygen levels for that type of fish, and so on and so forth. So it brought both classes in together with that. So that was kind of cool, because then they talked to each other about, oh yeah, we did the testing for you guys are killing your fish. What are you doing? It's kind of fun.
How long did it take to get the initial setup going, and when did you do that?
It was, I think because they had to plan it. And so I gave them an opportunity in groups. They had to come up with a design, and then as a class, we voted on the design. And so that took a couple of days. And then for me to go out and gather materials and the students to gather their materials and bring it in and whatnot. But the actual like physical part of setting it up was only a couple of days. So, and then we talked about all the different ecology vocab terms that we were seeing. And so throughout the semester, I'd be, okay, remember back when we were, setting up the habitat, where does this occur? Or what is this example in your habitat? So on and so forth. So.
And this was one class, right?
Well, it was the biology class created it, and then my environmental science class like utilized it, I guess you could say.
So I have 5 sections of biology.
I had 2 different sections, and so one of them I had 2 different areas. So they were kind of close to each other, so they could also see what each other was doing. Oh, ours is better than theirs. We have this and this and this. So yeah, it's fun. You'd have to have a pretty good space for 5 different sections.
All right. Check into, we still have probably, next one starts at 2:15, so we've got a good, what, 8 minutes or so. If anyone has anything else? Anybody at home? I have the chat open if you want to use that. Yeah, I'm not muted.
I'm interested in knowing what some of you guys use as lesson plans to get ready for the CPE.
The natural.
Yeah, if anybody has any good lesson plans for that, that kids could do whether they're in FFA or not.
That would be a good file, actually.
That would be an
Google Drive.
awesome file.
Yeah. And maybe some resources.
Isn't Chris Carlson really into the natural resources contest?
Yeah.
Was he at our table?
No, he wasn't.
He was the Harold Macking crossed with what?
What was it?
Sorry, I was student taught with him, so.
I know one thing that my students enjoyed learning soil was, I mean, I happen to live down the street from the research and extension station. So they provided me with soil samples, which I was super lucky, but like in bulk, it was 4 different samples and they had already used their equipment to test the soil. So they already knew like the sand, silt, and clay makeup of each one of those. And I did have 4 sections that year. So I like was still really conservative with how I used the soil samples, but each like group of students, like first they did the jar test and they had in their own like lab notebook, we did comp lab notebooks. They had to record like what their guess was in terms of like the percent of sand, silt, clay. And then we did the texture field test also that day. And then the next day, actually gave them, so then they had to guess what, like in the soil triangle, like what type of soil it was. And the next day I actually told them what the percent of sand, silt, and clay was based on the testing. And then they had to learn the soil triangle and use the soil triangle to actually figure out what kind of soil it was. So it was like all the tests in one, and it was like, so could they identify? And then I got to tell them like what, like if they were right.
That's cool.
I could. Anyway, I guess you could do that yourself if you're good at tests, like figuring out the percentages of the soil sample.
I was going to say Master Gardeners has a bunch of instructional videos that you could probably just preview and see if they work for your class. They tend to be short, and they do, like I got one on a ribbon test just because I didn't trust myself to know how to teach that long. So that's another thing I'd like to see is what are the resources that people are able to bring in for that type of instruction. Just because it's
even YouTube videos.
Yeah. I use YouTube all the time.
Yeah.
But that soil testing, I stole Brianna's version of things where she would get samples from people in the community, and her kids have to write up a report on the results and then give recommendations on what to do for their gardens and spaces like that. The only thing I would say is that because it's hard sometimes to make sure you're getting enough samples from everybody. And for some reason, my teachers want to give me the nice soil. And I'm like, no, give me the crap soil. Because the kids have to have something to improve on, you know. And I know I need to improve on the connection between the different garden plants or ag plants that work best with what kind of soils, so that they make that connection that it's okay if it's slightly acidic. It just depends on what plants you're using. So that kind of a thing. But they get nervous because they're writing a letter to a real person. So that's gives it the authenticity.
I used to bring into with the soils, a soil survey for the county, which I'm pretty sure every county has it. So it used to be a book. I'm sure it's digital because it's been years since I taught natural resources. I'm getting back into it. That's on here. But they have that written up. So you can see what soil scientists have composed for our education through the extension services. So it's just, you should be able to Google like soil survey of, and then your county,
Yes, it's the web soil survey. the
Yeah.
SDA web soil survey.
Yeah.
And you can create, like I just created a simple worksheet to help guide students through understanding how to use that resource. And it was kind of cool as they started to find their own homes on that survey and go, oh yeah, that is my soil, after you just did the triangle and they knew what their own soil is.
It's crazy how much information there is about soil everywhere. It's moving.
All right.
Do they share anything in the chat?
There are, most of them say they're what they're teaching next year and that they're listening to get ideas. Yep.
Eco columns.
So
Oh, yeah.
If you haven't done that, eco columns are pretty cool. And Christy's shirts. Let's go. That's my SCHE. Anyway, she posts a lot of really great environmental science labs, and she's very clear. She does the 5E method often in her instruction, if you're familiar with that. But she's got a very extensive eco column, and basically, sorry if I'm over explaining, but you take a series of bottles and each bottle has a particular ecosystem part. So you've got your fish at the bottom, and the poor little guys have to try to survive with that same concern about quality of water. And then she uses more of a filtration system in the middle now instead of the compost, because the compost was adding too much, I think, nutrients down below. And then a grow column at the top, and the kids have to monitor the soil and everything else. Usually if we had a fish dive, we just put it up.
what's the name on that again? I just want to type it in the chat in case.
Eco columns?
But
Yep, eco columns.
Christy,
Let me see if I'll spell her name.
There's a workshop here on Thursday about them.
I'm just gonna type it in the chat.
Oh, you guys. You might have it.
It's an I, but
Is it YouTube videos on it or is it a website?
Yep, she's got a website for all her curriculum, and it's for AP Environmental Science. But you can take it.
You're right.
And she has online instruction on YouTube.
SCHERT.
Okay.
Yeah, and the website is Teaching AP Science.
So it's a worthy one to keep on.
Teaching AP.
And that's like one of those things, like if somebody wanted to start an Excel sheet on the Google Drive, and then we could just pop in like websites and why we found those useful. So if we're just looking for a particular one.
There's not universal units, are like, I don't know how many, I know we're late. Our frameworks are all different, right? We all have different units. It's too bad we can't organize it by units. We could organize it by water, soil.
A big rangeland unit in our class, but it's not in like a farm, but it's just.
But it's really cool. You don't know if your kids are, like I've got kids, I've got 30% military, so I've got kids coming from all over the world. And I do have some, I know I'm in Tacoma, but I do have ag kids from much more sense.
What do you do? Do a lot of range plant IDs, like for that one, we go, I think a scavenger hunt deal, and they gotta go find, like learn about plant anatomy a little bit, and then they have to find plants that fit different descriptions. It's like a homework assignment, so they bring the plants in. A lot of them are just pull weeds in the school ground, like having a class, and then we, right behind the school, they own a piece of property that's all in sagebrush. And so we'll go do all our measurements and do like a inventory, rangeland inventory. And then part of it is an issues deal, and then calculating stocking rates. They actually like that. It's a lot of math, and I was they hate it. That's pretty much been my favorite thing in class. I don't know why.
It's like a puzzle.
Yeah, so I'll upload those. I have a bunch of those problems. I'll upload the inventory or the scavenger hunt deal. That's pretty fun.
Managing for invasive weeds seems like a really important thing for rangelands to possibly, at least, like a friend of mine's in Kitsap, hogweed and all these other things that she's got to get out there. And it's fairly easy certification I think, to get, and it involves math with using pesticide for control.
Yeah, that's what the issues deal we did, and they kind of had to come up with the best solution based on like cost effectiveness. Was just expansion of junipers and pinyon pine. So they go through and figure out like what the best control method was for that.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Well, 215 is
Yep.
like super secret.
So, yeah, I think it's probably time to transition. Apologize to the people at home again. We had to get the internet going. But once we did, hopefully you were able to hear stuff and get some ideas. So there is, I think most of you heard us talk about, there's a Google Drive attached to the conference website that if you have anything, feel free to upload it and keep stalking it. Because I'm sure there's going to be some stuff uploaded to it.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.